What is Nazism and what is National Socialism, and are they the same thing? This video came about as a result of me trying to decide if the Putin regime is a Nazi regime. I studied linguistics at university, and I think to be able to define what a word really means is somewhat important. In this video, I shall try to see if I can find an answer. The expression National Socialism has been used in German-speaking countries since around 1860 to describe the combination of nationalist and socialist ideas. The very first political party that I know of that left its mark on history to refer to itself as National Socialist was the German Workers' Party, founded in Austria in 1903. This party became the German National Socialist Workers' Party in 1918. Note that it is the Deutsche Nationalsozialistische Arbeiterpartei, DNSAP. In a different video on this channel, I showed how the DAP was founded in Germany in 1919 and renamed itself the NSDAP in 1920. Hitler, as an Austrian who had probably heard of the DNSAP, probably wanted to differentiate between the two parties when he thought of the name NSDAP. In the case of the Hitler Party, in order to further differentiate itself, it drew up a list of 25 points which were its unalterable framework, a list of points which turned out to be completely alterable. Goebbels later called them an embarrassment, and he wished that he'd never heard of them. During World War I, a number of extremely nationalist and imperialist organizations were founded in Germany. The Pan-German Association was established in 1891. It advocated for the expansion of German Lebensraum and subjugation policy of other countries. It needs to be pointed out that expansionism was common to most countries at the time. The British Empire covered around 1/4 of the globe and the Russian Empire around 1/6. As far as Germany was concerned, it was during the First World War that it became anti-Semitic and afterwards called for a national dictatorship against what it termed foreign nationals. During World War I, the German National Party, DVP, united with the Pan-German Association. This in turn led to the Deutsche Völkischer Schutz- und Trutzbund, DVSTB, which would translate to something like German National Protection and Defiance League. In 1920, this had around 200,000 members in 600 local groups. After the Hitler-Ludendorff beer hall putsch in November 1923, it was banned. In 1925, the NSDAP was legalized once more, but the Trutzbund no longer had any influence over it, and it was completely dissolved after Hitler came to power in 1933. In 1917, the Bolshevik Revolution happened in Russia. Many of the leaders of the revolution were Jewish, and the horrors of crimes committed by the communists were twisted to become Jewish crimes. The fact that the Red Army also committed pogroms against Jews was conveniently forgotten, although admittedly the Red Army committed far less crimes and pogroms than the White Armies did. This led to all sorts of anti-Jewish conspiracy theories which had been circulated by elements of the Christian churches for over 1,000 years. The ideology of the National Socialist parties was based on anti-capitalism, similar to that of the Communist Party, but also adding elements such as folkish, racish nationalism. I find the word folkish to be very difficult to define in the modern sense, but I would say that it is the belief in a people's community of people of the same ethnic origin, and in the modern sense can only be linked to Putin's belief in a mother Russia, as though the land itself was the giver of the political ideology. In Nazi Germany, This was perhaps best expressed by a sort of belief in the Heimat, the village from which a person comes. In the beginning, the National Socialist Party was a party for protest voters and those disenchanted with politics. It was not very successful until the economic crash of the early 1930s and the radicalization of politics which this produced. Whereas the term Nazism today refers to the special ideology of Adolf Hitler and his followers, Hitler defined nationalism as the devotion of the individual to his idea of a national community, and in this respect is very similar to that of the Putin ideology. The idea of socialism in National Socialism, as far as Hitler was concerned, seems to have been the equality of everyone within the national community, irrespective of class. National Socialism was based on Italian fascism and took a lot of its symbolism. As a result, the generic term fascism was introduced to describe all nationalist totalitarian regimes. I would suggest that at its fundamental core is not a belief in economic policy, but rather symbolism, mass organizations, and mass parades with a willingness to use violence, sometimes extreme violence. And this is something that we see very common in German, Italian, and Spanish fascism in the 1930s and 1940s, and to a lesser extent in Russia today. A significant part is also the use of conspiracy theories and racism towards those groups excluded from the national community. This racism reached its extreme with the Holocaust, but even recently we've seen the demands for the extermination of the Ukrainian people by some in Putin's entourage. Possibly one of the largest producers of conspiracy theories today is the Putin propaganda network and its campaigns of disinformation. Another part is the belief in wanting to grow the national borders of the country to provide more living space for the national community. The exception here is Franco's Spain. As we have seen, the full name of Nationalsozialistische Deutsche Arbeiterpartei was shortened to NSDAP, and the word Nazi is now often used. As far as I can see, the term Nazi was in use before the rise of the NSDAP as a derogatory word used in Bavaria for an uneducated peasant. I think that this is because the name Ignatius was seen as being a typical name for a farmer. This is possibly in a way like the name Karen has become into use in recent years for a particular type of person. As far as the word soci is concerned, it was already in use for a socialist. Therefore, Nazi was a convenient term. Ignatius is shortened to Ignaz. As the early Nazi party was above all a Bavarian party, the logic is that the word comes from here. As the word Nazi was used as a derogative term, it was not used by the National Socialists themselves until long after the war. In 1926, Joseph Goebbels, who had a degree in German literature and who fancied himself as a writer, wrote Der Nazi-Sozi, Nazi-Sozi. However, in Goebbels' pamphlet, the word Nazi only appears when the word Sozi is used and as an abbreviation for National Socialism. The word Nazi was used by those opposed to the regime, but I have never come across its use by a National Socialist before 1945. It appeared in Germany as an adjective, for example, Nazi Germany or Nazi regime, only after World War II. As always, if anyone has any evidence to the contrary, please write it below, but say where and when so we can have a look at the original use. Always go back to original sources as far as history is concerned. So as far as I'm aware, Nazis did not refer to themselves as Nazis until after the war. I sometimes get people complaining of my use of the word Nazi in the comments section when I should be referring to National Socialists. So what do you think? Can I continue to call Nazis Nazis, or should I henceforth refer to them as National Socialists? Write your opinions below.
Когда мы вместе, нам нет равных. За единство российского народа! Ура! Россия!
Все мы знаем, то, что сейчас происходит, непременно закончится победой. Потому что наша сила в правде. Победа будет за нами.
Слава нашим защитникам Отечества! Спасибо вам и низкий поклон!